Welcome back. Today we're finding out all about address penalties and eircode lotteries after recent research has revealed that burglary-prone areas in Ireland can have up to 62% higher premiums.
Daragh Cassidy from bonkers.ie is here to explain all about how home insurance premiums are calculated and how we can bring them down. Good morning, thank you so much for joining us. So what's going on with this? So depending where you live, it can massively affect the price of your insurance.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's home insurance or whether it's car insurance, where you live, unfortunately, does have a big impact on the price of insurance that you pay, sometimes by several €100 a year. The counties that are best for home insurance, cheapest, are Carlow and Kilkenny. The county that isn't doing quite so well is Roscommon. But some of the reasons are, if you're in a flood-prone area...
Poor Roscommon people, that's a bit unfair.
I know. But actually, if you're in a flood-prone area, but also if you're in an area that's at risk of subsidence, which is what they are, unfortunately, and also if you're in an area that is more at risk of crime, that is going to have an impact on your home insurance. So the difference can be quite stark. And in some cases, there's things that you can do to make yourself a safer bet. But in other cases, there unfortunately isn't a huge amount that you can do.
OK, this was based on like a 3-bedroom semi-detached house.
Yes.
And in Carlow, the average price was 493, I think.
Yes, around that, yeah.
And Roscommon was 801.
Yeah, no, so it's a huge difference.
That's a massive difference.
Yeah, no, it's a huge difference, and that is based largely on risk. Because insurance, not necessarily health insurance, that's a bit different, but other types of insurance, it's not like a normal product where it's based maybe on cost and supply and demand and things like that in competition. When it comes to insurance, a huge factor in the price that you pay is risk. Insurers and actuaries look at the risk and they think, are you a risky bet? And in some places and in some locations, whether it's for, like I said, car insurance or home insurance, some customers, unfortunately, depending on where they live, are considered way more risky to insurers.
Yeah.
How do you know if you're overpaying? Or how can you realise that maybe you're not insured for enough? Because it's a tricky one to work out yourself.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is a tricky one. Obviously, comparing the markets and making sure that you're not overpaying in terms of just the premium that you're paying. But a big mistake that people sometimes make with home insurance is that they price the home insurance based on the resale value of their home. So they might think, OK, my home, my 3-bed semi is going to sell for maybe €500,000 or €600,000. And they think that that's the amount of buildings insurance that they need. That's not the case. It's based on the rebuild value, which will usually, in most cases, be significantly lower. Now, unfortunately, rebuild costs, as we know, are going up. But that's probably the big mistake that people make. And you can go to the Chartered Surveyors of Ireland. They've a little calculator that will give you a good idea of the rebuild cost. And just even chatting to a broker, getting good advice when it comes to renew, they'll be able to compare as well, obviously, more providers as well.
It is fascinating, all right. Well, I couldn't believe, because not only are you going from county to county, but this survey also tells us different prices within counties. So, like, when I saw that a 3-bed semi in Dalkey is cheaper than home insurance for 3-bed semi in somewhere like Tallaght.
Yeah, and a lot of that, though, is to do, unfortunately, with crime levels.
Risk.
Yeah, with risk and crime levels. I mean, it's probably a topic for another day, but crime has such a wider impact. It's not just the people who are directly impacted, it's other people as well. And also, as well, just the type of house that you're in can have an impact on what you're paying. So if you have a thatched roof, and obviously not many people would, but in some places around the country, that would still be a thing. That can really impact on the cost of your premium. If you have maybe a wooden construction as opposed to concrete construction. We saw in the LA fires how quick a timber construction can go up in flames. If you have a flat roof as well, sometimes insurers don't like that. So there's lots of things that can, make you more of a risky bet, unfortunately. But little things that you can do to make yourself less risky. Look at maybe the security in your home. So do you have a monitored alarm? Do you have a good fire system? Little things like that. Make sure your insurer knows, and that might reduce your premium a little bit.
Yeah, but how can you know how much you need to have insured? Because there's home insurance, there's contents insurance. What is included in your standard house insurance? Yeah,
no, so good question. So usually people will have buildings and contents insurance. And for the buildings element, it is based on the rebuild cost, as we were discussing. And you can go to the Chartered Surveyors of Ireland and they'll give you a good idea. But also chat to a broker and they'll say, look, this is what this house is going to cost to rebuild. When it comes to contents insurance, Usually a good rule of thumb is anywhere from around maybe 30 to 50,000 euro for all of the contents. Now, what contents are usually defined as is if, let's say, there was an emergency and you needed to move, what could you take with you? So the furniture, the electrical appliances, they're usually the contents. And usually, like I said, 30 to 50,000 is usually standard. A key thing, though, is in general, if you have an item that is very, very expensive, so is maybe worth over 2,000 euro, that needs to be called out separately. So if you have maybe a really expensive bike or an engagement ring, you need to let your insurer know so that they insure that item specifically. So that can't be included in the 30,000 or 50,000 euro. And that's sometimes a mistake that people make. Again, I know I keep saying it, if you chat to a good broker, they'll be able to, go through all of these things with you.
Okay, but in that instance, say where there might be jewellery in your home, and you have to list that separately to the other contents. Are you then required to bring down the premium and also the level of risk to have a safe in your house?
It would depend on, I suppose, how big it is. I mean, how expensive the item is. Again, if you chat to your insurer and the broker, they'll let you know. But just sometimes people just let their policies auto-renew. And that's a problem as well, because inflation and construction inflation goes up. You may have made improvements to your home that makes it a safer bet that your insurer doesn't know about. You may have gotten new items. Health insurance.
Is it anything like a no claims bonus that you get in cars? If you make a claim, does your insurance go up?
Yes, that's another thing as well. So if you make a claim, your insurance is going to go up. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it might be better not to make the claim. So if there's a little bit of water damage and it's going to cost maybe 2,000 euro. Now, for some people, that would be a huge amount of money. For some people, it won't. You might say to yourself, well, actually, for the sake of maybe 1,000 or 2,000 euro, should I make the claim or should I maybe just pay the money myself? Because you'd have to ask yourself, how much is the premium going to go up by?
And what's the point of getting insurance in the first place if you have to kind of horse trade it like that?
You're right. And sometimes, people do get frustrated. But I would say insurance is probably more so for the big things as opposed for the little things. But it is a fair point.
Can I just ask, though, you hear stories of people who, will take tea bags and use them on their ceiling and claim then that they have water damage and make a claim. Yeah.
No.
Yes, big style. Yeah.
Surely an engineer would see through that.
Yeah, but how do you tell the difference, I suppose, is the argument. But people who are fraudulently making claims, are they messing it up for the rest of us?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, don't do that.
Never
make a fraudulent claim. But it's the same in car insurance. We see fraudulent claims all the time. And yes, it absolutely has an impact on the premium that other people have to pay.
That's absolutely... It's mind-boggling what some people will do. Anyway, listen, we could talk to you all day about this, but it's getting a bit depressing, so I don't want to anymore. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning with quite the education now.